my beautiful star beams. My name is Sage. If it's your first time meeting me, I am an expansion coach and an energy healer. And what we are doing today is we are doing spiritual coaching. So if you have something that you're currently going through, a problem, a challenge, growing through, I should say, you can put it in the comments here, whether you're live or watching this in the future. And I will give you advice to the best of my ability on how you can make forward movement through that. It can be something in life, or if you want to know more about something in spirituality, either one is okay. And if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that way you know when new videos and content comes out. This is the second live coaching session for TikTok. The first one, if you want to watch a replay, is up on my YouTube channel, Soul Harmony Magic. Okay, April, I'm trying to learn to let go of the past. I don't want to affect the new. Oh, great. That's great. Okay, because that's very universal for a lot of people, right? Okay, letting go of the past. Okay. So that can be difficult sometimes because a lot of times people are trying to like predict your future. And so if we have from childhood, not saying this is you, April, necessarily, okay? Hey, Branton. Not saying this is you necessarily, but a lot of people, empaths and lightworkers who have been through a lot of trauma in their life, control is something that a lot of us are still working on healing because there's safety in control. And control is a mechanism of control is to look at past experiences to predict the future. Even if you're not consciously doing it, right, because we don't want to pull from negative past experiences because then we'll have negative future experiences, but it's something that you're doing on a subconscious level, right? You're not actively trying to do it. It just ends up happening, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's how we get caught in like trauma loops and behavioral patterns and keep just having the same old days all the time, or attracting the same people. And so letting go of the past is going to evolve you becoming the higher self to your past versions and to your inner children. Because when I'm doing sessions with people, oftentimes when they're stuck in life, it's because there's an inner child, or when I say past version, I mean any version of you younger than you. So that can be you yesterday, 2015, all the way on down, okay? Not past lives, past versions. So they are taking over your wheel of consciousness. They are saying, I've seen this before, this is how we handle it, right? It's almost like they have a guidebook. And so when you see those things happening and you catch yourself, because it's not always easy, but I know we've all had that experience of like, oh, wait a minute, I think that I'm handling this in the same way as I have in the past. That's where you have to take a pause and you have to actually go in and talk to the inner children and past versions and have conversations with them and say, why do we feel the need to repeat? And then you have to come in and show them a different path. And like I said, is it always easy to catch that? No, but you do have times where you do catch it. And that's where you have to make that conscious choice of, am I going to become the higher self, or am I just going to go back into that old pattern or that old behavior? Now, with what you're talking about, are you talking about harping on like trauma that has happened from the past, like reliving like old memories and like pain and things like that? Because even then, that also takes you coming in as, yeah, okay. And that's why I wanted to lead into that with saying the other things first, because it kind of also takes the exact same steps. It's like, you know that you're consciously ready to let go of that stuff because you can see how it's not helping you. Oh, thank you for the follow. The first step in healing something like that is awareness. Because for a large portion of your life, and a lot of us too, like I'm not just speaking to you, April, a lot of us are the trauma. Like we're interacting with ourselves and the world as what has happened to us, like the pain. Okay, but then you hit this point where you start observing the pain. And you say, oh, that was me in the past, right? I don't align with that anymore. I don't know how to heal it, but I just know that it's not me. I'm not attached to it. So you're where you're supposed to be too. So you need to also give yourself grace and compassion, because like healing trauma is not easy. Like, you have to dig through all types of memories and pain and emotions that haven't been processed. And like, that takes time, especially when you're talking about healing inner children inside of you, because there's no 5-year-old or 9-year-old that wants to sit there and like dig through all this stuff. Okay. Like, we can't force them into that. So we have to take that in due time. But I can say that when you get triggered in the here and now, and all that stuff kind of starts coming up and bubbling up, that's a perfect time for you to make time and space for those inner children and past versions, and come in as the guide and the higher self and the coach, the friend, the mentor that they needed, and help them process through it. That's very different than you processing through it. It's like, I'm not attached to that anymore, but I do understand that there's consciousness within me that was hurt at their time and space. Does that make sense? Like, we can't disassociate from the pain and the trauma and not process it. Like, you still have to do that, but it's different when you're talking to inner children and helping them process through their stuff. Because now we can come in as that higher consciousness. Yes. Okay, right? Because what happens is, when we get stuck, is because we are attaching to the pain, into a narrative of who we used to be. We'll detach from the identity and the narrative and say, yeah, that happened to me and it is very real and it hurt very deeply, but that's not me right now. So when those memories and those triggers start coming up and those self-limiting beliefs, you can say, oh, thank you for showing me that. I appreciate you. I say that to my inner children and my past versions all the time when they're trying to bubble up stuff, because they're just trying to tell me like, hey, I need help with this. I did not have the time or the space or the resources to heal, because my inner children and my past teens and my young adult, they went through some very traumatic things, and we didn't have any tools and resources. We didn't know how to process our emotions. So that stuff is sitting down in your chakra system unprocessed. And so the simple fact that you asked about this tells me you're ready to go in and start helping them with it. So we need to just detach from that being us in the here and now. Just like you have a higher self that doesn't have the attachments to what you're going through right this second, and they're helping you work through it because they're over here on the other side. They've been there, done that. That's you right now to your inner children and past versions. Like, you are also a higher self to them. So be inquisitive, right? When that stuff comes up and you're like, oh, thank you for showing me that. I appreciate it. What can I help you with? Now, when I say this, like, when you process emotions with your inner children or your past versions, like heavy dense stuff that's been in there for a long time, you have to feel it in your body. Like, you're going to feel it just as intensely as they are, because that's the only way to get it out of your body. But it's from non-attachment. So you can actually just let it channel through. Like, yeah, you might have like a really rough afternoon, like getting all that stuff up, but then it's gone. And then you and your inner children feel better. And once you unravel and wrap trauma from around your inner children, they actually move up to a higher self form, because all that trauma is gone out of your body forever. Like, the memories are still there, but you look at the memories and interact with the memories differently. Like, I have memories that would be like my undoing years ago to like look into them, but now I can look at them objectively and say like, yeah, we did a lot of work to let go of that pain that was wrapped around that memory, and it's okay if it comes back up, because maybe there's like a different layer that needs to be healed there. Like, that actually happened to me the other day. Okay, I had these 2 memories that were very traumatic. Okay, and I thought that they were separate from one another because I was different ages. But there was this block that I had for like a really long time, and I realized how both of those memories were attached to one another, but it didn't hit me that hard because I had already worked through them. I was like, oh wow, look at that association. And I wouldn't seen the association unless I had worked on those memories individually with one another, and then pull that trauma from around my inner children with that. right? Wow, see, I want to be there. You will get there. You will. Okay? It just takes, you got to make time to go through it with them. So when you get triggered, right, or a memory comes up or something, take a note. Okay. And you can tell them too. Like, sometimes they'll be showing you stuff and it is not an appropriate time. Okay. We are at work, or we're at a birthday party, or, you know, you're just somewhere, right? You can literally tell them, like, I've done that before where I'm like, I'm gonna go take a walk for a second because it's all coming up. And I'll be like, hey, this is not the time to talk about it right now. Okay, because we're doing something else over here. But I promise you that if we can just take a deep breath, that I will come back to it with you. Usually they just release that momentarily. It's like a kid that is, hey, from Nepal. It's like a kid that is like, mom, 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 mom. Like, they're going to continuously get louder until you acknowledge them. Now, the other thing is, though, if you tell them, like, hey, I'm going to process through this with you later, you have to do it. Because if you have abandonment and trust wounds from childhood and you don't, that's not helping them. Okay? And I have done that before. And if that happens, like, it's fine. It's, you know, you're learning how to do these things. But we want to show up for our inner children and past versions if they're asking us for help as much as you possibly can. Because that heals abandonment and trust wounds. You showing up and holding space is how you release those things. Right? So I would just suggest, like, when that stuff starts coming up, like, make a commitment to be like, hey, I love you, thank you. Let's talk about it on this day and time. If it's not convenient, you know, like when it's coming up, and then sit there and process through it. You can journal, you can meditate, you can just talk out loud. They can hear you. You might not be able to hear them, but they can hear you clearly. Okay? It takes practice to be able to hear your inner children and past versions talk to you, but the more that you spend time with them, the more clearly you can hear them. Also, people talk about shadow work with inner kids. We love that, okay? But if you're not spending any time, not you necessarily, April, okay? But if you're not spending any time with your inner children right now, you having fun with them and doing things that they would enjoy with you is going to be more beneficial. Because you can't just go straight in with a child that has abandonment and trust wounds and trying to talk to them about a whole bunch of heavy stuff, because y'all don't have that type of relationship yet. Just from somebody who does this like with people professionally and with self, and you know, I don't have all the right answers, and you got to listen to your intuition and discernment. But I will say that fun can also be shadow work, because a lot of empaths and light workers led very traumatic childhoods and didn't get to have fun and had a lot of responsibilities put on them. And so having fun is actually going to be more beneficial than digging through the trauma. Now, you still have to dig through that stuff, like you still need to work through it, but your shadow work might just be like, hey, let's have fun together first, and open those windows of communication and trust, so that way when they are ready to show you those like very heavy, dense memories, then they feel safe, right? And some people, fun is like a form of shadow work, and also feeling safe and secure. Like, kids can't talk about trauma stuff if they don't feel safe and secure. So if you don't feel safe and secure right now in your current reality, it's fine if you're not doing inner child work. Like, maybe what you need to be focusing on instead is feeling safe and secure in your environment, in your internal and external environment, because once you do that, now you can help your inner children with that. Right? So there's like, it works in like layers, okay? So I would ask first, like, do I feel safe and secure enough to start that type of work? Maybe I need to start with fun things first, and then working on safety and security with them, and then going through trauma stuff, right? Because there's so many people that just jump right to the trauma stuff, and it's very overwhelming, especially if you have a lot of chaotic things going on in your 3D current. Okay, dumping a whole bunch of trauma from the past on top of that stuff is sometimes it makes you go backwards, if that makes sense. Release right after thinking about practical use. What do you mean by right? Do you mean like right or wrong? Is that what you mean? Do you feel like that helped, April? Or let me know if you have any other questions about that. And then if y'all have other questions about things that you're going through, challenges, or if you want to know some more about anything in spirituality, you can put them in the comments here and I'll read them. Oh, right, as a segue verbatim. Oh, gotcha. I use that a lot as a segue. Yeah, I do. Not as necessarily as in like, yeah, right, like I'm right. More like, oh, we're going over here now. Yes, I went and got Play-Doh to play with today. Oh, I love that. See, that's perfect. That's great. Like, because if you didn't get that time and space when you were a child, like, how wonderful for you to sit down with them and do an activity like that. Like, sometimes I'll do coloring, or I'll watch a movie, or go do chalk art or whatever, and like that's very healing for them. So great. I hope y'all have fun with the Play-Doh. That sounds like a good time. Okay, I'm gonna go back up here and see if I miss any comments. Y'all make sure you drink some water today. Y'all hear my chair? Hello, welcome. You are sharing some wonderful insights. Oh, good. I'm glad it's resonating. Okay, how do I deal with losing an unborn child? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I know that's super heavy. That's not something that I have experienced in my own life journey, so I can only empathize and tell you like what I would do from like my standpoint. But you know, it might be really beneficial to listen to other people who have been through that experience, because they understand on a very, very deep level what that loss feels like. And so if there was something that I was going through that maybe other people in my life weren't necessarily experiencing or had experienced, I would listen to other people's stories, because you can find real solace and peace in knowing that you're not the only one. And you can also pick up a lot of tools, and I'm going to share some like tools and resources too, but I just want to say, like, hearing other people's experiences is really, really healing and beneficial. You might also be able to find like some support groups for that. And could see how that would be very, very therapeutic. For me, if that was me, I would probably, if you haven't already, I think it'd probably be very healing to write them, stressful time, probably write them a letter of how much that you appreciated being able to spend that time with them, however long that time was, and that you will continue to be a guide to watch out over them, and they will be a guide to watch out over you too. Like, they're going to be a part of your spirit team, right? And you can also ask them, like in the letter, maybe you come up with some type of signs or synchronicities for them to send to you, so that you can kind of get that confirmation that they're there. So maybe you have like a favorite animal, or there's, you know, just something special that you wouldn't see normally on a day-to-day basis, and ask them in the letter. And you don't have to write a letter, you can just speak to them if you want to. Sometimes it's better for a letter because people like tangible things. But asking to like share something together like that is like an anchor point, and so that you know that they're there, because they will be there in their ethereal form. But I would also really suggest getting around some other people that have experienced that And whatever that looks like, a support group in your town or online, or just going on YouTube and like listening to other people's stories, it can take a lot of that pain and that weight off. And I'm sending you a big hug because I know that's really tough. Okay, stressful time management and family issues. Okay, let's tackle those on two different channels here. Okay, so what's going on with the stressful time management? And I'm going to write the family over here as well, because time management is a very broad scape, and family issues. So I'm going to ask you for both of them if you could tell me like a little bit more information. Do I know about Pleiadian energy? Yeah. I work with Pleiadian energy a lot because I'm a Akashic record healer, and the Akashic records are held in the Pleiadian star system. So I work a lot with Pleiadian energy there. And then family. Okay. Any tips on how to connect with your divine feminine self? Yes. Okay, so I'll add that to my list over here. Okay, so work, classes, etc., drama in each. Okay. So if we are experiencing, oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I just want to make sure I get everybody's. If you're experiencing a lot of drama in your life, just like in many different areas of what that sounds like, do you mean like dramatic things happening? Let me ask that before I get into it. Dramatic things happening, like it's real kooky energy, or do you mean like it's drama filled? Because those are two different things. And my answer is going to be different depending on which one it is. So is it just wacky energy or just like literal drama that is in there? Okay. Both. Okay. And I'm going to say this with the utmost love, okay? Because I have been in those experiences before, and whatever that is in your current reality right now is because there's something going on in your internal state that has pulled that in. Okay, so and I'm going to explain it in a couple different ways here. So how much drama are you participating in, right? Whether that's you participating with that with other people, or stuff that you're watching. Because if we're watching, because this used to be me, I used to watch a lot of drama-filled things, like on social media and things like that, and it would actually like pull more people and more experiences in, because that's what my subconscious was like focused on. So I had to really stop participating in that for my own like persona. And if you have a lot of drama going on, there could be a couple different things. So if it's real chaotic, I used to have my turns off Jersey Shore. Like, I'm not saying not to watch those things, okay, because a little drama, like, we're all human and everything, but if it is like a lot of your consumption, it is going to shift your experience outside of you. Like, it really, really will, because your subconscious is looking for it. It's like, oh, you like this? And then asking yourself, like, because I don't know all the ins and outs of what you're dealing with, so this is just a broad scope, okay? So if we're participating in the drama with other people, it's going to create a drama-filled reality. And so I used to be very drama myself, because I would always try and like over-explain myself and try and get people to like me and want to like kind of like tribalism, right? And trying to like talk about people and stuff. Like, you got to ask yourself, where's my part in this? Do I need to cut that off? Because I used to do that. People would start me talking about stuff, and I'd be like, oh, let me go ahead about whatever, right? It's the same thing with like complaining. We have a natural gravitation to do that with people because we want to connect with them, but you just get dragged down with it, right? And on the other side, I used to have like a very chaotic life, okay, because my plate was too full. I would fill my plate with too much stuff because I was trying to deflect from my self-love. I was like, oh, let me get invested in everybody's business and just keep myself busy constantly so that I don't have to look at myself. And I would be all up in people's situations trying to help them, right? Because I love doing that. I love helping people, but I would be all up in their business, be like, okay, well, let me be your life coach before I was a life coach, okay? Because it made me feel better to deflect away from my own things that I needed to look at, right? But it was a little bit of healing because I was like working with other people and reflecting it back, but a lot of times it wasn't being helpful, okay? So I would look at self and be like, am I filling up my plate because I'm trying to use it as a coping mechanism? Because sometimes your mind will be like real tricky, okay? And it'll be like, oh no, these are all good things. Because it doesn't sound like you're doing like, you got like a wild life or anything, like you're doing the things, right? But it's like, why are we doing those things? Always like, if you can't figure something out, why questions are the best. Like they will help you dig until you get to it, right? And then with yeah, okay, I was trying to be, roundabout as I could, because I was sensing that. And then with family members too, okay? So if we got real drama with family members, are we participating in that? Like sometimes we, want to defend ourselves and like say, well, if you're on a spiritual awakening journey and there's other people around you that aren't, they hold this very specific past narrative of you because they grew up with you. Like they've known you for like such a long time. So they see you in this one very specific lens. And so when you start to deviate away from that, it can be very triggering, right? But you don't owe anybody an explanation because they don't get it. You could argue with them all the live long day, but they're not going to understand what you're saying because y'all are on completely different consciousness wavelengths. Right? That's why it's very important to find other light workers and empaths to connect with so you don't feel so isolated. And are we people pleasing with our family and like wanting to meet their expectations? Right? A simple like, I don't have an opinion on that. Right? Like sometimes it's okay to just say, I don't have an opinion on that. Or I'm choosing not to talk about that. Like you don't have to go in with people on things, right? Like, so I would just kind of like look in that mirror and say, how much am I participating in this? Am I filling up my plate because I'm trying to deflect from what I need to look at? Or have you recently made a declarative statement over yourself and said, I want to be a new identity. I want to hold strong boundaries. I want a life that is less drama. I want to experience more peace and serenity. Okay. Well, you got to have triggers around you to evolve. So like when I first started holding boundaries with people, I was like, oh, I'm about to be on this new life and all this stuff, right? All these people in my life started checking my boundaries. And I was like, what the heck? This is worse. Oh, hello. Thank you. So new. This is getting worse, right? But now on the other side of it, I'll be like, yeah, how was I supposed to get better at boundaries and not having drama in my life if I didn't have that stuff to not participate in? Right? So that might be it too. Like you might just be going through a karmic lesson of like, how do I stand up for myself and not people please and hold good energetic boundaries and interact with my family in a different capacity, right? So you can also look at it as like, this is a level up moment. Right? And however you decide to handle it is however those results are going to be. Because sometimes we jump to hold on, I need to boop somebody out of here. However we try to, or however we handle things is however those results are going to be, like whatever those perceptual lenses are. So we can either look at it as like, oh, we're going backwards, or it's getting worse, or I'm failing, or this is the time that I level up. But it does, honestly, it does sound like it's a mirror to say, like, where am I doing this? Because there's a reason that those things were pulled in. There's always a reason that things are happening. Okay. Do you feel like that helps with your situations? And I'm not saying either that those things are your fault. Okay, because I want to, like, there's so many times that people are like, oh, well, you know, I have all this work that I need to do, and all the shadow work, and like all these problems and behavioral patterns and all that stuff. Most of that stuff is not your fault, because, like, who are your parents? Who are your guardians? What did you learn from them in society? Like, you're having to, like, defragment so much stuff within you and, like, literally just reteach yourself how to live. Okay, so what we don't want to do is take what I said and then hold shame and guilt over self and be like, well, dang, you know. It's more just awareness, because awareness is like the first step, and then not holding shame and guilt while you're processing through these things. Because I guarantee you, if it is you participating in drama stuff, or your family, you know, not respecting your boundaries, or you trying to meet their expectations, or people pleasing, or putting too much on your plate to deflect from self-love, that's just probably not your fault. It's probably just the way that life happened. Right? But because you're asking me about it, like, that's indicative of you seeing it and wanting to change. So, like, that's great. Right? Or change circumstances, or shift something internally to have a different external. But you got to remember, like, everything around you that is happening is because your consciousness is sitting at a certain frequency. So when you shift your consciousness and your frequency, it shifts people and things around you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for not. Sometimes people can't come with you on the journey, so sometimes that means people gotta go. But it does shift everything. Okay, I'm gonna go back up here because I feel like I missed a lot of comments. Let's see. Vanessa, did you have questions about the feminine energy? I think that was you that asked. I have it over here on my list. So let me know if you're still in here. Okay, yes, okay. Do you feel like that you have been in your masculine energy a lot? Hey, Sarah, hey. And hey, Corinne. Okay, do you feel like you've been in your masculine energy? Okay. Do we feel like we were in our masculine energy a lot because you had to be in it to survive? Or that was the way that you were raised? Because, yeah. And then, okay. Do you feel like it's a safety trauma response? Because some people are just born with a lot of masculine energy. I'm not talking about male and female, okay? Y'all, when I say these things, okay? This is more like frequency vibe, okay? Okay, so because masculine energy, some people are just very much like born with that, and then some people have to do that in order to survive as a safety trauma response. And especially because, I don't know where you live necessarily, but if you do live in the United States, capitalism pushes a lot of masculine energy as well, so you can be entrenched in both areas. Okay, it's trauma based, but I do have some Aries energy. Okay, that's what I was picking up on. Like, I feel like we're getting it from both ends, being born and just like very entrenched in masculine energy. Okay, so realizing that it's a safety trauma response is a great start, because now we can kind of take the shame and guilt off of not being in our feminine energy, because we know we had to do that to get through, right? Oh, Scorpio moon. Okay. We had to do that to get through. And so the age that we're stepping into, you know, the feminine energy is very counterintuitive to us because we're very, and I've been the same way, very action-based, goal-oriented, because it's a way to like prove one's success to self. And there's safety in having like very tangible steps like outside of you, but that's not working anymore. So it's throwing a lot of people off because there's so many people with masculine energy, because what we're shifting into is, hey, do you ever talk about Christianity to connect with some clients? I will answer that after here, Jonathan. Yes, I'm letting the trauma go and redefining what success is to me too. Yes. Okay. Right. Masculine energy is very much, let me achieve this and then feel success. Okay. Feminine energy is, I feel successful now, and whatever I choose to do will be more alignment because I already feel successful. We're not looking for something external to determine how we feel in the internal. Okay. So what I would suggest that you do to help, because I'm working on this too, like I'm healing through this, because my natural state is to just jump in and do. Okay. If you do that, and it is also coupled with fear and anxiety, you will manifest more fear and anxiety and not great things. Okay. So, and that's kind of what I'm picking up on here is like, hey, we're not manifesting the things that we want to either, because we're stuck in this type of like, fear manifesting thing over here. Like, not to get into your energy field, but it just got in there for a second. So what we need to do before we decide to take action steps is you need to connect with, I'm working on your vision board though. Okay, good. That's a great place. Yes. Okay. To start there, we need to figure out who it is that we're trying to turn into. Okay. This is your next higher self. What are they doing a year from now? Okay. What kind of thoughts are they thinking? Emotions, actions? What do their finances look like? What do their career looks like? You know, just like there's a thing called the Wheel of Life on Google. It's a psychology tool, and it kind of like breaks your life into different sections and saying like a year from now, because when you're trying to go 15 or 20 years out, that's very overwhelming. Okay. Like, that's so much, and you may not even be on that path later on. And it's still good to have very macro goals. Okay, because you got to have something that's so exciting that it keeps you going. 1 year goals, sometimes that's not enough. Like we need to think like really big out here, but you also need to have goals that are very close to you to make it more tangible, right? I know you like it because you have that masculine energy, so you're like, okay, yeah, I can get with this. Okay, so, but we need to get very clear on like what that is. And if you want, I have a free workshop in my bio that you can download. It says Higher Self Connection, and I break down the framework of how to personify your higher self. So there's like step-by-steps. But before taking those action steps, like you would have in the past, I'm going to show you a picture. Okay. So you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is kind of like the Wheel of Life, and it'll be like finances, career, friends, romance, you know, all this stuff. What you would have done in the past is find out all the steps that you need to take to get to this goal up here, right? And we just jump right in. What we need to do first is get in meditation before you take those action steps, and energetically connect with that higher self version of you. Like, get in your imagination and actually have a conversation with them, because the action steps that they're going to tell you to take are different than the ones that you would take right now, because that's why you're stuck. That because you would take masculine steps. Okay, and they might actually be the exact same steps. Okay, but that higher self that's living in peace and serenity, their steps that they tell you are going to be in more alignment with the timeline that you want to be on. Because you're going to feel in your body when you're talking to them like, oh yeah, this is very peaceful and chill and nice. Okay, Now I'm going to take action steps from peace, okay, instead of jumping into masculine fear. It's literally, you just need to connect, like for a cut, like this morning, I did that with my higher self. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna take 15 minutes and I'm gonna go and have a conversation with her. And by the end of the conversation, I am her talking to me now. That's how I do my meditations. I start as me in stress and anxiety, and by the end of the 15 minutes, I am future me talking to her. I'm like, girl, if you don't just chill out, okay, I need you to take a breath. And then I will tell me now from future me, this is what you need to do today. Okay. And I have had a much better day today, and I have better days when I remember to do that. Okay. Is it always? No, because life, whatever. but it is a lot easier to do that. But you got to get very clear on who that is. Because if you're just talking to a higher self that's like out there in the ethers, just loosey-goosey, right? That's very intangible, and because you have very masculine energy, it's going to be better for your template and your energetics to have a specific person that you're talking to of where you're trying to go. Does that make sense? That's going to give your masculine energy safety. Okay. Of like, oh, we have a plan. We have a tangible plan of where we're headed. Okay, I can let go of control a little bit now and be more in peace because I know that we have the plan. Right? Wait, we have more than one higher self? Oh yeah, for sure. You have, yeah, absolutely. You have multiple higher selves. This is the issue when people get stuck, is because they are trying to talk to a higher self that is a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and you're trying to get downloads from like all these different higher selves, and it's confusing you and overwhelming you. And then like you're the higher self to your inner children and past versions, but your past versions are higher selves to your inner children. It works like a ladder system. Okay, so like when you consciousness shift up into the new higher self, the past version that you just shifted out of, like that identity, they shift into you, and then they help the version right before you. So that's how like Akasha healing works. And then you can start doing like past lives. Okay, and they're also integrated into the ladder system. And there's higher selves from all the different incarnations as well. And once you start healing with, like, once you get a real good handle on talking to this higher self and helping your inner children, you can start to channel your other higher selves from different incarnations and pull in like different gifts and mentors, and also heal other versions of yourself in different incarnations. That's soul fragment healing. That's like deep stuff. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna try and digest this all today. Yeah, listen, go watch that workshop that I have in my bio, and it'll make it a lot more tangible for you, because I know that was a lot of just like theoretical. Oh man, I have so much work to do still. Yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Okay, we're just focused on what can I do today. Okay, you needed to hear all that so that your masculine energy has like, hey, these are what we can work. This is the plan. And then the feminine energy is like, let's just follow our intuition as we work through these steps. That's what I'm saying. You need some type of framework to move forward, personifying the next higher self, but we don't need to control. Okay, because that's not what we're trying to do. We're having a framework that opens it up to let you heal that masculine stuff with safety. With still having safety, because you got to think, you have like inner children inside and past versions that went through a lot of trauma, so they're not wanting to be in a life that's all loosey-goosey. Do you see what I'm saying? They're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean just be in the flow? Like, that's not the vibe. Okay, so how about we give them like a little structure and then heal at the same time. Okay, and then Jonathan, are you still in here? I was going to answer your question about the Christianity thing. And Vanessa, you don't have to jump all the way into the feminine energy. Like we can like, because we don't want to do that either. Okay, we're not trying to flip flop into, like, we really need to be balanced. Okay. But that's a good place to start. My inner children want me to have fun again, but sometimes I'm so in my masculine, it's hard for me. Yeah, I get that. I get that too. It's always like go, 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 do, 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 do. Balance. Yes, balance. That's why making a framework so that they know that they have a plan allows you to have more fun. Right? But we need a smaller framework closer to us instead of this big framework that you have right now. Because the framework is so big that you don't have time to have fun because you're so overwhelmed. Make the framework smaller, okay, to you, so it's not so overwhelming. Okay, Jonathan. I don't really necessarily, I feel lighter already. I appreciate your help. Oh, you're very welcome. You're welcome. And if you're watching on YouTube, I will put the workshop in the description here below. Okay, if you want to watch that, it's Connect with Your Higher Self. Okay, so Jonathan, I don't really necessarily talk about Christianity. I don't have anything against Christianity or like any religion necessarily. I have dealt with a lot of religious trauma in my life, and so sometimes I will speak to people per their religious trauma stuff that they have going on to connect. But even so, I don't have anything like negative like against Christianity itself. It's more like the structural systems that people are put through, because there's a lot there's great and not so great things in everything, right? Christianity, spirituality, just anything. There can be great stuff and a lot of love and then a lot of hate over here. And so I don't really typically talk about Christianity stuff so much because it is very triggering for people, especially there's a lot of like empaths and light workers that are working through that. But I'm not against talking about it, if that makes sense. And sometimes I'll talk about all my experience that I went through and what I had to do to work through that trauma. You know what I mean? But even so, like even spirituality and Christianity, there's things that like coincide with one another. Right? Like I'm all about whatever window you want to look through, if it's unity consciousness, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of co-intersecting things, and then there's not. And then there's a lot of bad stuff and bad stuff. There's a lot of not so great things in spirituality, so you gotta use your discernment filter. Did you have a reason that you were asking? Hey, Michaela. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, thank you. My mushroom shirt. Thank you. Or were you just curious? I often help a lot of people with religious trauma stuff because a lot of times that will, oh, just curious, okay. And that's a good question, thank you. I help a lot of people with religious trauma because sometimes there's like, a lot of people experience like spiritual blocks or like not being able to hear their higher self or their intuition if they did grow up with like religious trauma, or they receive religious trauma through like societal programming, because it's like, oh, manifesting is evil. Okay, shadow work is evil, you know, like all this stuff are like magical abilities. And so if you have inner children who were told that stuff like over and over and over again, sometimes your inner children will be the one that block your spiritual gifts because they're afraid that they're going to go to hell, they're going to be punished, you know, like all this stuff. And so I have to go in and like help people's inner children like realize like, hey, you're actually safe. That stuff was just projected from other people because they didn't understand, right? But when something is like rooted in unity consciousness, no matter what it is, right? Like just different people like to traverse through life in different ways. So like you can definitely be in a Christian household and, you know, grow up and not have those things around you. It depends on like what environments that you were involved in. But yeah, that is something that I see a lot with empaths and light workers, breaking away from constricting structural systems that they were brought up in. Thank you for the follow, Amanda. I appreciate you. I'm gonna light this incense really quick. Okay, if y'all are just joining in with us, we are doing spiritual coaching. And so if you have questions about something that you're currently going through or growing through, or a challenge, or you want to know something more about spirituality, you can put it in the comments here and I will answer to the best of my abilities. Again, I always like to say this, okay? Everybody has different truths and values and beliefs. Just because I'm over here saying something does not mean that it resonates with you. Okay, so always check your own compass and your intuition and your discernment with anybody. Okay, your friend, your mom, a coach, a healer. You might pick up a little bit of truth from them, and then some of the other things they're saying, you're like, that's not for me. Okay, like, that's fine. Like, that's good that you are listening to your compass. That's interesting because I think we could help a lot of Indigenous with intergenerational trauma, with Christianity. Yeah, that's not my area necessarily. Especially as, like, I'm not an Indigenous person, so I wouldn't be able to, like, speak on that myself. I don't know if you're Indigenous or if you have, like, roots like that, but that's not something I can necessarily speak on. Good morning. Good morning. I feel like Christianity and spirituality connect to each other somewhat. Yeah, that's what I was saying too. There's like a lot of coincidenting, right? Because take all the structural things out of Christianity, it's really about unity consciousness. Okay, it's all that other stuff that comes with it sometimes. But even in spirituality, like I've seen, like on my path, where spirituality sometimes can be very much giving Christianity, right? Like just in a different flavor, in a different form, and not called Christianity. So you have to check your filters for those things. Hello, hello. Okay, I'm gonna go back up here. Kate said that's what I've been dealing with, but it's just me not having it shoved down my throat growing up. Yeah, everybody has like different experiences. Like my, oh, you're welcome, Jonathan. Hopefully that answered your question. or the second part that you had there. My grandfather was a preacher that raised me. So I was like very entrenched in the church. In religion. And again, like I was even having this conversation with somebody earlier where some of my like most loved people in my life and like the most beautiful people I've ever met are in the like religious society, and they're great. They don't have like one hateful bone in their body, and they love everybody no matter from what walk of life that you come from, and they're all about forgiveness and grace and compassion and just all these things, right? Like they're not part of the structural part of it where it's trying to like control, manipulate, you know what I mean? And then I've met spiritual people that are very like manipulative and structural. So like it can be with anything. Or I was talking to somebody earlier about dragons and fairies, and they're very much demonized, like working with them in spirituality. Not everybody. I don't want to make like a blanket statement over that, but the majority. And I'm like, I've never had a negative interaction with either of them. So it depends on like what your life experience looks like as well, and what type of connections you have with different things. Yes, but there can be quote unquote good and bad in all the things. Okay. And the space is open if anybody wants to ask any more questions, or if you want to share something that you're currently growing through, and then I'll offer my advice on it. And light and darkness and everything too. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why using your like knowledge is so key, right? The more you know, the better you are to discern. And so it's always good to look at things through different lenses, different perspectives, different people, so that way you have like a grand scope of what you want your beliefs and truths and values to be. Like, you never want to deep entrench into like one wavelength, right? because that wavelength will always say that it is right and correct, but that's a very slippery slope. so even if you don't necessarily like believe in somebody else's perspective, it's very good to like listen to other people's perspectives nonetheless, because you might be surprised of like, oh, you know what I mean, because you're only looking through these two lenses. And so Christianity, mom and dad just told me about God. I recently realized I don't believe in organize like the organization of it, right? Like the organization and the structure is sometimes the thing that people don't like. It's not actually like the Christianity thing. It's actually just like oppressive systems, right? Because at the basis foundation of Christianity, it's not supposed to be oppression in structural systems. But you can have that in spirituality too. Okay. Have you ever done any work with helping spirits cross over? Yes, I have. I have done that type of work but I don't really do that type of work anymore. Not that I wouldn't, but it's not really like the type of clients I pull in anymore. But I have done helping people cross onto the other side. I still help pets cross onto the other side. That's actually something that I love doing. And so if my friends or family or like clients ask, I will help with that. And then I've also helped with like different, when I say pass on to the other side, I use that loosely too, because like sometimes I'll be going in and helping different timelines of people heal through things. So they're not actually like passing over, but it's helping them release trauma. Or like with your inner children, helping them release trauma so that they can shift into the new higher self. So it's not exactly like helping them cross over, it's helping them heal on a Akasha level. So kind of the same, but not. If that makes sense. How do you manifest what you want while still having limiting beliefs and old habits? Okay, that's a good one. Okay, I thank you for the follow, Autumn. I appreciate that. I'm gonna write that down here. Manifesting with old belief systems. Okay, so I'm going to give you an exercise that you can do that would be really beneficial. Okay, so sometimes we're very afraid to look at our self-limiting beliefs in our behavioral patterns, because in spirituality, we're like, oh, you have to stay high vibe. Like we cannot lean into that, because then it will consume you, right? That is true for like some chapters of your life. If you're going through like a lot of catastrophizing and you're experiencing like a lot of anxiety and depression, like sometimes that can be all consuming. And so there's different chapters where you do want to stay like as positive as possible, so you can kind of like get up out of that hole. Because I've been there before. Like I could not look at that stuff. I really needed to stay like forward momentum, but then there came a time where I was in a safer space, and I'm not saying you're dealing with that stuff, this is just my experience, okay? Then when I got to like a better space energetically, where I felt safe and secure, or more safe and secure within, then I can start tackling the self-limiting beliefs and the trauma and stuff. And so what I would suggest, because you're in that space, I can tell per the way that you worded that question, is like, okay, I'm still experiencing it, but I'm not attached to it. I'm starting to like pull away from that narrative. And so that's the first step. And like seeing what the issue is. Okay. So I'm saying this to you, that it's cool if you do this. Okay. So you're in this space, is to get out a sheet of paper and write all of your self-limiting beliefs. Like all of them. I don't know if it's around like a specific manifestation or just manifesting in general, but write out as many as you possibly can, because those self-limiting beliefs are trying to keep you in your comfortability zone, because they can tell you're trying to shift identities and go into a new chapter, and they're like, how about you just stay here? It's safer here. So now we need to look at those self-limiting beliefs on that piece of paper and say, is this true? Is this 100% true? If it's a no, the great next step is to counterbalance that with, how is it not true? Like literally write out on the sheet of paper, like, it's not true because of this. And it can just be one time. Your subconscious works on evidence-based results. Okay, so if you want to override a self-limiting belief, you have to give your subconscious a reason as to why that's not true. Is it going to clear it out immediately? No. Okay, especially if you're like newer to doing that type of work. But the more that you do it, your subconscious starts to say, oh, wait a minute, actually, if that's not true, these other things that I don't believe aren't true might not be either. And then it starts to defragment the other self-limiting beliefs. But because you're in this space, you need to look at those self-limiting beliefs like very directly, face on, and talk to them, because that's your ego, right? Trying to keep you in comfortability, which we love. We don't want to get rid of our self-limiting beliefs and our ego because they help you grow. Okay, that is what actually evolves you, is when you are them and then you evolve up here where you're looking at them and saying, I don't align with that anymore. And then you work with them to release them and then shift up. That's how the cycle works, right? Okay. So once we embrace them and we say, I love you, thank you for allowing me the space to grow and evolve and to get more in alignment with my manifestations, and we're going to work through this together. You're not going to be at the consciousness, like the wheel of consciousness anymore. You're going to have to be in the passenger seat, okay, over here. But I'm going to have a conversation with you and explain to you why this is not true for me. And you got to keep doing that. Like, this not, like, I have self-limiting beliefs come up all the time. Every day. Okay? In some different form or fashion. And when I hear them, okay, the ones that I've been working on, because you have some that are real deep rooted in that you don't catch. They're just running back there, okay? But the ones that you do catch, if you can in a moment say like, hey, actually, no. Like, you got to hold a real good energetic boundary with yourself and say like, I don't align with that. That is not who I am. I know you're saying that to keep me safe. No. And this is why that is not true. So that's what I'm saying. It's easier if you sit down and make a list of all of them and then write out the counterbalances instead of just trying to do that in your mind space. Because if you write it on a sheet of paper, you're logging them into your subconscious so that when they do come up, you can be like, no, remember, that's not true because of this. Right? So, and I would have to go like much deeper into that with you, like as far as like what self-limiting beliefs, because some are easy or to counterbalance than others. Like some of the self-limiting beliefs that come up, they're like, yeah, we've never had evidence. You probably have, you probably just need to look at it in a different perceptual lens. Right? Like if it's like, I'm not confident. Okay, and I ask you, like, where have you been confident in life? And you say, I haven't been. Well, then that means you're probably going to have to do even more homework to, like, find where you have been confident even one time in your whole entire life to counterbalance that. So some of them are easier than others. Also, I know y'all are leaving, like, mad comments down here, and I haven't seen them yet, so I'm not ignoring y'all. I have to finish this while I'm on the tangent. If you can listen to affirmations at bedtime, it will be a huge game changer for you, because your subconscious is the most open to reception right before you fall asleep and right before you, like right when you're waking up. It's like very open and just like a sponge absorbing. Okay, so what happens is if you listen to those consistently on your day-to-day, like, you know, you going throughout your day, those self-limiting beliefs start to loosen their grip and they start getting easier to catch and easier to override. Like that was a huge, like I still do that to this day, okay? Because it just makes them so much looser. And you can be like, oh, wait a minute. No, I don't agree with that. That's not me. I'm not in alignment with that, and I'm reinserting this over here. But very much do that writing exercise, because you need to tangibly have it out in front of you first to log in your subconscious, so that way you're not trying to just on the fly come up with things. Because when your subconscious is throwing up self-limiting beliefs, that's the last thing you're going to be able to do. Like, you're not going to be able to get in your memories and dig for those things, because you're in fear and anxiety and you're in survival mode at that point. And it's very hard to access that stuff when you're in survival mode. Your subconscious will be like, block. You can't see that stuff. So if you have it on a sheet of paper somewhere, you can just go back to it, or on the notes on your phone, and be like, no ma'am. Like, I already told you this is why that's not true. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go back up here because I feel like I missed a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Okay, very helpful. Good. Okay. I'm glad I was trying to find you in the comments here. Yeah, I would keep a running notes app on your phone that every time that you have like a self-limiting belief come up, try and sit down for just like a couple minutes and counterbalance it. And what you're actually doing is training your brain how to become the higher self, and that you are not your brain. Okay, because you're not your thoughts. Your thoughts are literally like you're channeling them from past narratives and past experiences. They're not you, right? That's why you can decide to align with them or not. Like, the sheer fact that you can be like, no, I don't believe that, means that you're the consciousness behind the thoughts, right? And so doing activities like that, teach yourself and your psyche, like, oh yeah, that's just my mental body. That's just my brain. That's what meditation is supposed to do. Meditation is to teach you to detach from those things. Observe them, embrace them, love them for what they're doing for you, but you have to consciously like shift above them. So that's what that activity is. And that's what affirmations at bedtime does too. I love the affirmations idea. I listen to binaural beats, Hertz music at night already. Yeah, binaural beats are great. Love that too. That's just a different type of healing. That is for your light body. That's for your chakra system. That's for your auric field. Even to help release trauma. But listening to affirmations at bedtime is specifically for your subconscious. And your subconscious rules 95% of your actions. So sometimes it is more beneficial for you in whatever chapter and space you're in life to do like binaural beats at nighttime or Reiki or light language. Like, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't need the subconscious mindset reprogramming because I'm in a really good space with my mindset, and I need to listen to light language Reiki. And then sometimes I need to hunker down on them mindset. Okay. Oh, that's good to know. I honestly didn't think about it that way. Yeah, your subconscious is like, it has to do with your mental body, and your mental body, your mental body, your spiritual body, your emotional body, and your physical body all need separate things. Like, sometimes there's an overlap and an overlay, but generally, like, they have very specific things to help each one of them heal. And so your mental body needs the affirmations. And I'm gonna say too, okay, before I say that, before I say a declarative statement like that, you don't need anything. Okay, when you're listening to people talk about manifesting, like journaling and affirmations and like all that stuff, you don't need that stuff. If you're at a consciousness level where you can say, I am the creator of my reality, and what I say goes, and I choose to do those things because they're fun and they make me feel good, that's great. What we don't want to do is come from a place of like, oh, well, I have to do X, Y, and Z to get my manifestations, because that's not true. You are a prosperous and abundant being that is deserving of receiving simply because you're a creator. The manifestation things are just permission slips. Okay. Like the subconscious mindset reprogramming thing that I'm talking about, it depends on what consciousness level you're in. Because I quote unquote needed those things because I needed a permission slip to help me. Does that make sense? But what you're trying to get to ultimately is being abundant, prosperous, and getting paid to exist and being in your passions without needing anything. Okay, so I want to say that before you like start doing those things, okay? Because do them because they're fun and you feel like they're helping you, but not because they're a requirement. Those are all things that have just helped me when I was in those spaces and places, and still help me because sometimes, you know, we're all like this. Like, we'll be vibing, I'm the creator, everything that works out for me, I'm the luckiest person in the world, like vibing super high frequency, and then you be over here and it feel like you are a dumpster. Okay. And you are just going through it and you forget all that stuff. You're like multidimensional who? Okay. So those manifestation things can help you get back up here. But when you're back up here, you don't need those things. Does that make sense? So depending on what consciousness that you're in, but never think that you need something externally to heal or shift or anything like that. It's just depending on where we're at right now and what chapter. Okay. So instead of journaling, you can just use affirmations out loud. Is that what you're kind of saying? Yes. Okay. The affirmations at bedtime, again, that can help you reprogram. What I'm talking about as far as that activity, when you are having self-limiting beliefs come up, you have to give them a evidence-based reason as to why it's not true, because that's how your subconscious works when you're reprogramming it. Hey, Tabitha! So you have to give it a reason as to why that thing's not true. Like affirmations, that is a little bit of how to reprogram your subconscious, but it's really based on evidence-based things. Yeah, so like the confidence thing. So if you have a limiting belief coming up and saying like, I can't do this because I don't feel qualified. Okay. Not like a skill set, but just like, I don't have enough confidence to go do this thing over here. Okay. So in order to counterbalance that, you would have to say, where was I confident in my life one time? Like maybe you did like public speaking, or maybe you like, I don't know, whatever the confidence thing is for you, right? So you would tell your subconscious, like, that's not true because of this example. Because it only needs one thing. It only needs one example. The more that you have to give it, the better. Like put as many layers as you can, but you only need one to disprove. So that's why I'm saying, get out a sheet of paper and write out all your self-limiting beliefs. Write them all out. Because you can't heal them if you don't know what they are. Does that make sense? So, and sometimes that's very triggering because it brings on like shame and guilt. It's funny you brought up confidence because I had a feeling. That's why I kept on bringing it up, because I energetically felt that that's what you were working on. So I was like, I feel like this example would be good for her. So we need to know what they are, and so that you can override them. So let's say that you're in your day-to-day interactions and you're having all these self-limiting beliefs coming up. If you're trying to think of those counterbalances while you're in fear and anxiety, you're probably not going to be able to find them because you're in panic mode. But if you have already sat down as an activity and wrote all your self-limiting beliefs and then all the counterbalances, you're banking them in your subconscious so that when they do come up, you can be like, no, remember, I already told you that's not true because of this. But you needed to do it before you're in fear and anxiety. It's kind of like, you know, when you are like vibing really high and you're like, I love all these things in my life. Okay, I love dancing, I love going on walks, I love playing with my dogs. And then when you feel like absolute garbage, you don't even know what fun looks like. You're like, I don't even remember what that is. I don't know what I like to do. And then you start spiraling. Okay, that's why I tell people you need to have some type of list I have one on my bathroom mirror, okay, of activities that help me get my frequency back up. But I have to make that while I'm in a good mood. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm saying, like, you need to do the activity before you're spiraling. So you can come back in and be like, no. It's even better if you put them in your phone, like have a running list in your phone. So like in the day, like your day to day, if it's like, I'm unworthy, let's just say that one, okay? I'm unworthy, and we're gonna type it in our phone, and then we're gonna give an example of how we are worthy or why we are worthy, like in that moment. That's how you rewire. And once you start to rewire one belief, the other beliefs that you have about yourself start to defragment too, because your subconscious sees them as a whole. It's like, it's your identity. So if you find a missing link in the chain of your identity, your subconscious will start to be like, oh, wait a minute, maybe all these other things aren't true either. Okay, so it really does start to like radiate out. But like affirmations will only take you so far, because if your subconscious doesn't believe them, it's not doing anything for the most part. Like if you listen to them thousands of times, like over and over and over again, like it eventually will. But like, and I'll give you an example. So I used to have very low self-confidence and self-esteem. Okay, like not great. And when I used to say affirmations like I am confident, my brain would not believe that. It was like, what are you talking about? Okay, like, no, we're not. So instead of saying I am affirmations, I would say I am working on. Because your subconscious will believe that. It'd be like, okay, well, we can always be working on something. Because your subconscious loves to work on things. Like, it's there to work for you. Okay? It's like a computer that runs in the background constantly, and whatever programming you're running is what you're going to get in your external. Okay? So I'm working on my leadership. I'm working on public speaking. I'm working on confidence. I'm working on having great finances. I'm working on feeling safe and secure. If you have a affirmation that triggers you when you say it, it's probably because you don't believe it. But if you say I am working on, that's very easy to ingest. Right? Because it's like, yeah, it's the same thing with the overriding your subconscious beliefs. It's like, no, I'm not trying to force you into something that you don't believe. I'm just giving you evidence of to why that's not true. Right? Because it's tangible, it's real. It's not just some esoteric, theoretical, like, oh yeah, we're just going to say we're confident. No, this is a specific reason why I'm confident or have been confident in the past. And you just need the one. And the more that you do this type of exercise and you start putting in more reasons, the stronger it gets. And then all of a sudden you're a confident person. Like I literally became one of the most confident people I know through saying I am working on my confidence, and then rewiring my subconscious like that with giving it evidence-based reasons as to why I'm a confident person. And then all of a sudden I woke up one day and I was. After years of horrible self-confidence. All right, so it is possible, but you got to make it more tangible for your subconscious. Or you have to, like, if you literally cannot think of one thing, okay, then that means you have to go do something to put yourself in a situation that will prove to yourself that you're confident. That's the other end of the stick. like confidence is something you get after something. You don't have confidence before. It's like you get confidence after you do the thing. That's something I had to learn too. You need determination. Determination leads to confidence. When you do transitions from the working on to the I am, when do you? When you actually can feel it and you don't feel triggered. Like now I can say I am confident because I fully believe that. I know that. But when I used to say it, it hurt to say it. Like spiritually hurt, because I knew that wasn't true. But the more that I did that I'm working on, then I start to like say it again, and I'm like, oh yeah, I am. So you'll know intuitively, right? And you can check that barometer by saying an I am statement and see how you feel with it. Okay, Vanessa, oh good, I'm glad that you enjoyed it too. It's a really useful tool. Very, very useful. Okay, everybody. Well, it was lovely chatting with everybody today. I appreciate you. I always love doing these. If you resonated with my teachings, with my personality, and you would like to work one-on-one, I do offer individual sessions. I do Akashic record readings, coaching. I have a mentorship program. You can find all the information in my bio up there, or you can look in the description box here below. I will be putting the Quantum Leap Your Life workshop or the Higher Self Connection workshop in the description as well. And then I would love for y'all to join me in the cosmic community. We're going to have our next meeting tomorrow. So this is for motivated light workers who want to be around other people working on their goals. Because if you have a lot of 3D people around you, with no shade to that, okay, but if you have a lot of 3D people around you that don't understand your vision or where you're headed or what you're doing for the collective, like the global shifts that we're experiencing, these are your people. Okay, so we're doing group coaching, brainstorming sessions, energy activations and check-ins. We're going to do group healing circles as well. And so I would love to have you as part of the group. You can find the information down here or in my bio, and it is the Cosmic Community. And we'll be doing our next meeting tomorrow, which is Wednesday, September 12th. For those of y'all that are watching live. Okay, if you have any questions about the things that I was talking about, you can always reach out to me on my social medias, Soul Harmony Magic. I always love answering questions from people or helping you on your journey. And I hope you have a very blessed and magical day today. And y'all are very welcome. I appreciate you very much. This is a very dynamic and fun conversation today. Okay, I will see you next time. Bye.